I'm triggered. You'll excuse the quiver in my voice, but I'm shattered. I've been avoiding this threat, but the thought of it cannot leave me. How much longer do we have to march like hostages to dead ends? Till the soles on our feet tire? No, we will not tire. But some of our women march ancient in the knowledge that this too shall be their fate. That the same feet they will use to march may be the same feet that will never set foot on this land again. Oh Nkosiyam, may this be the last march pleading justice on Hlobo. What world are we living in? Abanolwazi bathula abanezimvo bavala imilomo abangazinto bamile imiqhadi bomme amathe bazibuza imibuzo ethi behleleleni yena kanti South Africa enjani lena. Hey guys, for those of you who don't know me, I go by the name Amanda Padani. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to all the new subscribers. I'm so grateful that you are here. So guys, today, as the topic suggests, we are talking about why women stay in abusive relationships. Now, this, guys, I'm really not an expert. That's why I have someone with us. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome clinical psychologist Leon Batiste. So thank you so much for being here, my friend. Thank you for taking this time. I know you're a busy man, and I'm a bit nervous. I think we should pray. Yeah. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you, Lord, for being in your relation this time of this nature. We pray, Heavenly Father, we invite your Holy Spirit in your presence to lead us, Heavenly Father. We speak against a dilution, this conversation will not be diluted. It's not normal to be abused. It's not normal. It's not normalcy. Therefore, it will not be diluted in the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus, amen. Whew, now I can breathe better. Under control. Okay, so I've been dying to have this conversation with you, apart from all the little conversations that we usually have, awkward hours and long conversations. But I think what got me sitting here today is, being bothered by all these headlines of, whoever was abused, and that question that really puts me to bed is, relationship, like why did she stay in the relationship, so I'm calling you here, and I'm grateful that you are here, and I'm hoping that with this conversation, we're gonna get to be against blaming women for being victims. So, like the topic suggests, I really want us to get into the psychology behind, because I think there could be so many reasons, or a woman can give a valid reason according to her, but I actually wanted to understand better the psychology behind why women stay. I'm asking this because I've been a victim as well, and there must be a side behind it, because there's a trail of the same nature with women that have been abused. So thank you so much. Why do women stay in abusive relationships? That's the question. That's a real question.
Thank you, man. That was such and it's an awesome question, man. Because it's a very, very sensitive topic to most people, even to me, because I had a couple of family members who were victims of abuse, and I got to understand how they dealt with the whole situation. So, one, first of all, cannot blame themselves, for being abused, So people need to understand that the problem is not on them. Obviously, the problem is with the abuser, the person who abuses. But the first thing that we need to talk about, and people need to understand, the term abuse, because, people go through abuse and all of that, a lot of people are content with it because they don't understand what the term means.
Oh my God. Oh my word.
Then you say, then another person outside the relationship can say, you are abused, but they don't feel like they're abused.
That's crazy.
Simply because they don't understand the term, And there are many reasons, but let me first explain what abuse is, in simple terms. Abuse is just like any action, that harms an individual, harms or hurts an individual, you understand? But we don't want to stick to that definition only, So it's a wider definition. But people need to understand that when you're abused, the most important thing is how you feel, you understand? If an action happens towards you, how you feel is the most important thing. If you don't like a specific thing and it happens persistently, then that specific thing is an abuse.
Okay.
So we need to first understand what abuse is.
Got it. So Kobantu, like myself, there's no mind doing my abuse. Like, I don't even know what it is. Someone else can see that I'm being abused, but I don't see it.
Most definitely.
That's crazy.
You know, and there are many, many reasons for that. You know,
Okay.
a typical reason would be, you know, like your environment plays a huge part in shaping an individual.
I was gonna come to that thing. I can't come. You mentioned now, Ndobana, with abuse. Sometimes it's not, we're not looking at the victim, it's not the victim's fault, it's the perpetrator's fault. And so I think with what you're saying, I believe it 100%. But I also have come to terms with the fact that sometimes, this is my perception of life generally, that sometimes we can say, oh, I've been abused, and this is what happened to me, or, oh my word, I got a divorce, you know. But I think at some point with me, I want to know, how did Amandla Fadane contribute to the divorce? Because yes, divorce is all over South Africa, yes. But what, yes, it was there, the abuse was there. But what role, if I'm saying it correctly, what role, whether or not I'm aware, maybe I'm not aware of the role that I played. I'm not saying that person is right to abuse me, but I'm just saying, what role have I played as Amanda Fatani to contribute to that person abusing me? Is it the role of me having this low self-esteem? You know. So with that, what you're saying, I think my take is always, what contribution have I made, or what can I do for this not to happen to me? What areas can I? You know, I don't know if I'm making sense.
Okay, when you say that, what contribution, you know, do you make, like, in order to be abused? For example, that alone is a victim, like, mentality, you know, because you tend to feel like you're to blame.
Okay.
Of which that's not the case, you know. When you are abused, you're never the problem.
Okay.
But obviously, there are many reasons why people stay in abusive relationships, but it does not mean that you are contributing. Because when a person abuses another person, there's something wrong with them.
Okay.
You understand?
Okay.
So don't ever condemn yourself, you know, for being abused.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with you. Like, the problem is the person who abuses. So I feel like this.
Guys, I'm in a therapy session, hey, like.
Because we're trying to avoid a therapy session. It's more like a dialogue. We want a dialogue here, you know. You know, just for people to understand what it means, you know. And as I said, like, so the environment plays a huge part in shaping an individual, how they think and how they behave. And a typical example would be, you know, let's say your mother gets abused by your dad. Well, you don't feel like it's abuse or anything like that, but like your mother gets physically assaulted by your dad on a constant basis. Then you feel like it's a norm. Then when you grow up, you also see it from your neighbors, you also see it from your friends, they start doing the same thing. But then it becomes a norm that, okay, fine, I've seen my mother being abused by my dad, but then if my partner is doing the same thing to me,
it's normal.
It's normal.
That's crazy.
It's normal. So it's weird how the environment plays a huge part in shaping our thoughts and all of that, you know.
That's crazy.
So that's the environmental part, and there are many reasons, man. Like another reason would be like emotional control, man. You know, like people who abuse other people, you know, they're very manipulative in how they do things, and so they understand that, okay, when the relationship is new, they'll do a lot of things, sweet things, you know, just to keep them, just to make the person happy, you know, buy them gifts, buy them flowers, chocolates, and all that. You understand? Then now you see the good side. now you see the good side of the person. Now you see the good side of that person. Like, okay, that was sweet as Banban. Maybe like, I really like that. Then you obviously start discussing that with your friends and all because of the excitement. You know, it does that. You know, on a constant basis. Does that. Then you have that picture of him.
Okay.
Then things start changing.
Okay.
Starts abusing you and all of that. Then obviously it will come as a shock to you, okay?
And it's not a big shock. It's a slight shock because the abuse comes. I mean, it's a subtle
Yes, of which
it's
something
first the way he responds, you're like, yeah, okay, let's move. You know, it's subtle.
It's very subtle. Of which is something that you can put under the carpet just like that, you see. And in that situation, a very dangerous situation, because that's where the abuse starts now, you know. Then in the back of your mind, you have a picture of him being sweet, giving you those gifts, taking you out on dates, you know, buying chocolates and all of that, you know. So the problem starts there, you know. Then that's when now, when the abuse happens, you know, he hits you, he swears at you, you understand? Now, when people ask you, why don't you leave that specific relationship?
I hate that question so much.
In the back of your mind, you have that sweet person that, okay, this person will change because that is not him. But you don't know him. You know, you don't know if that was a strategy, because people who are abusive are very manipulative. They understand how abuse goes, you know, they tend to do things, they know how to do things the first time the relationship starts. And they know how to manipulate someone emotionally. You know, they can control you emotionally because they know how vulnerable you are. They know that you like those gifts, you understand? So it's easy for them to remind you of them when they started dating.
Crazy.
So those are the type of things that we need to understand.
Yeah.
And
so it's environment and emotional control.
Yeah, environment and emotional control. You understand?
If I grew up in a home where my dad used to hit my mom, this is obviously an example, I didn't have a dad growing up. How do I remedial, how do I go back to thinking from a centered place? Is it seeing therapists growing up? Is it?
How would you counteract the problem? Obviously, one needs therapy, like for that. Needs therapy for that, simply because, you know, there's those specific events cause trauma in your life, you know, and obviously that trauma can contribute massively towards the individual that you become in the future, you know. So you need to deal with those traumas from a tender
age. Okay. So now that you mentioned trauma, I remember my psychologist mentioned this term trauma bonding. I don't know if you're familiar with it, of course you are. She mentioned this term trauma. We stay in relationships because we are trauma bonded to these people. And she explained it in this way, that if this person hits you so many times over and over, that your brain chemically starts registering this act as a love language, and then you feel like you are loved from the abuse. So now that you mentioned trauma, I'm just remembering this term, trauma bonding. Is there anything that you want to add to this term, trauma bonding?
Okay, one thing I know about trauma bonding is that it's a very broad term, you know, and in a situation where, like, people view people or partners according to their own perspective. You know, for example, a partner for them is a person, a man for them, especially a woman, a man for them is a person who represents
tall.
No, assertiveness. Tall,
dark and handsome.
But now, when it comes to a deeper sense, or what a man means, you know, aggression, you know,
aggressive,
you understand, assertive, you know,
that's true.
A person who is not soft, a person who is not tender in how they do things, you know, that makes sense to them. That's how a man is according to that specific person, you know. And when a man behaves in that sense, in a relationship, starts being aggressive, you know, it's a love language for them, because it makes them, a man should be like this. A man should be aggressive, a man should never engage in emotional conversation with me. You know, so those are the type of things that we need to understand from trauma bonding and how broad the term is.
What are the other reasons women stay in abusive relationships?
There are so many reasons. Like one,
I can attest to low self-esteem. I can attest to that, because I think when obviously I'm no professional, I'm not a psychologist, but from having a couple of sessions, I had to go back to myself and sit down with myself and realize that, you know what, low self-esteem, you know, so I think that could, for me, I'm attesting to low self-esteem.
Yeah, they contributed towards you staying in a relationship.
Yeah, I think.
It does, but like, I wouldn't say that would be the major reason of people staying. One major reason really affecting a lot of people, especially in our country, you know, like the dependence part.
Okay.
You know, where most women are dependent.
Well, financially, physically.
Financially, emotionally dependent, you know, on that specific person, you know. And now when a person asks you, why don't you leave that relationship, you know, it's very hard, you know, because now you have lived with that person for 10 years plus that specific person. Now they're telling you to leave this person. Think of the things that you have attached to, you know, in that specific household. You understand? Now you have to leave that. So it's not easy.
Crazy, though.
It's not easy. Hence you find that a lot of women stay in a relationship. And the fault is not on them, you know, it will never be on them. You know, there are many reasons. Being dependent on the person, understanding, okay, fine, this person is providing for the family, for all my needs.
For my kids, for our kids.
I understand. So when you're dependent on the person on that level, it's very hard to leave. It's extremely hard to leave. So
I'm thinking if it's hard for you to leave at that point, it means that in your brain you've registered being here is more important. I mean, having this life is more important than my well-being. That's what it is.
Most definitely, because the attachment has been made. You know, because you're attached to the house, you're attached to everything in the house. You know, you love your kitchen, you love everything. Now you have to leave, just like that. You have to leave just like that. You know, so it takes a lot of thinking. You know, and it takes another degree of abuse for a person to make those type of decisions. So, like, you know, the dependence part affects a lot of women. You know, hence you find that, you know, a lot of self-introspection needs to be done. You know, women striving to improve themselves, building their self-esteem, building themselves financially.
Okay, so self-esteem, building yourself financially, that would contribute to you being able to actually even think about standing up to this person maybe.
Because like there's a term in psychology, they normally call it self-actualization. You know, it's just a term of, you know, it means like an individual, you know, striving to be the best version of themselves.
Okay.
So I feel like as individuals, when we learn just to improve ourselves, like in all facets of our lives, then it's very hard for us to be accustomed or be victims of abuse because you understand yourself better.
Oh my word, I need you to say that again. I need you to say that again.
So like, it all boils down to improving yourself, not only, you know, financially, but like in all facets, you know. Like,
I'm saying repeat yourself because I feel like the good therapy sessions.
But I didn't want this to be a therapy session. I wanted like a dialogue type of thing.
I know, but this I'm taking some home for myself here as well. So
it is a very broad topic and it's very interesting, you know, especially to a lot of people, you know, because there are a lot of people who are victims, you know, of abuse, and it's one thing that's really affecting the country.
Yeah, so part of the reasons why I wanted you to be here on Mama Kaposo also was to actually get to a point between the two of us to refrain from, you know, blaming women for being victims. So I wanted to get to a point of how do we, step one, how do we help? But if someone is watching, even for the viewer, I mean, a take home, as she is sitting there pondering in that abusive relationship, in that dependency, I want her watching this show, taking home something as homework to do in order to take a couple of steps forward in terms of where she would be or where he would be. You know, so enlighten us.
So like, as I said, like for a person who's abused, I don't feel like a person should be blamed. Those people should never ever blame themselves for being abused. They are not the problem.
Okay.
They should never ever feel as though they are the problem. And people should stop asking questions such as, why don't you leave? You know, like, there are many reasons that can cause a person to stay in an abusive relationships. For example, like, I don't know if you're comfortable speaking about the Namla story. You know, like, that one is a typical example of, you know, a person being afraid of being judged by people.
Okay.
The reason why I'm saying this, right? There are partners out there, you know, men out there
Okay.
who hold prestigious levels
Okay.
in the community. They are pastors, they are businessmen,
Okay.
you know, some of them, like, you know, make a lot of money.
Yes.
You understand? So obviously, being that type of person comes with a lot of money, comes with a lot of reputation. So now leaving a relationship like that would be the hardest thing ever. You understand? Imagine now if you were to leave a pastor because he's abusing you. How many people are going to believe you? How many people will judge you? Same people in the congregation will judge you. The same people in the community will judge you. So a person who's abused should never be blamed. You know, and they judge themselves. Because people are judging it, now you're judging yourself. Because
That's
of
true.
this person that I'm dating
Yeah.
holds a prestigious level or prestigious reputation in the community, I can't leave him. Because bazathi abantu hayi suthethe ezo zinto kumfundisi. Suthethe ezo zinto this is a well-known or well-renowned businessman. This is Dr. Bani. You understand? So it's very like imperative for us to understand what a person goes through in abuse and never ever blame themselves and stop asking questions such as why don't you leave? You know, the question should be, okay, what is the step forward now? You know, and move on.
Yeah.
But like a person who's abused now must understand that there are degrees of abuse, and they themselves must take action now, depending on their
what's the action? Like you have a viewer right there sitting, you know, and watching, and you are talking about action. What action are you talking about for that viewer?
Okay, since I said that some people don't understand what the term means, abuse. So the best action is that a person should try by all means to find out information about awareness programs, about abuse, what it means, when are you abused, and all of that. When a person understands now that this is what abuse is, then they can start making rational decisions. Then obviously from then go through therapy. You know.
Yeah, therapy is a very big step.
Yeah, it is a huge
it's
step.
Very important step, I mean.
It's beneficial too. You know, start dealing with those traumas. You know, because obviously when you're abused, you know, you become victim of trauma. You know, some people.
I had to go through the sessions in order to stop operating, because I was a victim of trauma, but more so I started operating from this trauma perspective. So going through therapy really helped me realign and center so that I don't operate from being traumatized and affecting everyone around me.
And one thing I like about therapy is that the more you talk about your trauma, the easier it becomes, the lighter you become as a person.
That's true.
So, because therapy is a constant thing, you know, it happens repeatedly. You speak about your problem on a constant basis, become lighter. So, I feel like one of the most important things is speaking about your problem. Never ever bottle things up inside, because it contributes massively to depression. So,
I think we had a conversation yesterday though, about, like, besides what we're talking about here, we had a conversation outside of this, and we're talking about your personal life, and we're talking about, I don't want to say contribution anymore, because now that's in Google, contribution. So I don't want to use the term, but a trail of, because you notice that women who don't have dads or who grow up without fathers tend to have like a trail of being attached more. Do you think not having a father in your life can, I don't want to use the term contribute, what term can I use it in English?
No,
You hear what I'm saying? Do you think, because I grew up without a father, you know, and I don't know, could it be one of the reasons? I don't know.
Yeah, well, most definitely. I feel like when it comes to a family, a household, like each parent plays a significant role,
Okay.
in shaping that specific individual. So, not having a father figure as a female, because we're speaking about females right now, not having a father figure as a female plays a huge part, that will contribute towards your behavior.
Okay.
You see, as a woman.
Okay.
Because you miss a step. Because that just means that, as a young girl, you fall in love with your dad.
Okay.
Okay. You end up having jealousy,
Okay.
Then you start seeing your mother as a counterpart.
Okay.
You understand?
Wow.
So hence you start seeing young girls who are extremely fond of their dads, because they are at that stage. So when you start missing that specific stage as a female, it contributes a lot towards yourself when you grow up, and in a negative way, it could contribute in a negative way depending on the structure, environment.
Going back to the environment, okay.
Especially family. So having a father, or not having a father, many ladies will start finding father figures, in boyfriends, in
dependency.
Dependency and all of that, because they never had that father figure in their lives and all of that. So it does play a part.
Yeah.
It does play a part. It needs a very strong woman, to raise kids.
Yeah.
Playing a father figure and a mother figure at the same time.
Based on what we're saying, I think what's important is going back and just being aware of, these loopholes around you, because as you say, if you grow up without a dad, then make sure that whatever loophole there could be, not that there is, not that there always is, but there could be, am I right?
Yeah.
So I think what's important here is going back and realizing about yourself, realizing what kind of holes that you can sort of cover, so that when these things come, you're not dependent, so that you can see things from afar. Because I've had friends who would say to me, "You, not Kumsan," like that would never happen to me, like, with confidence that I didn't have. I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, you are making sense. You are making sense.
It's important to realize yourself. Self-actualization. I learned a new word today. Self-actualization. And just know who you are, where you come from, understand your environment. Take the good from the environment. Realize the bad as the bad. Realize the good as the good. So that whatever you operate from, the basis is there. I don't know if I'm making sense.
You are making sense. One thing that I always dwell on when I'm speaking to my friends and my younger sister is that, like this life that we live in, it's all about, revamping ourselves, And obviously when you're in pursuit of revamping yourself, you tend to get to know yourself better, That's where you start building confidence as a person. That's where now you'll understand that you'll never settle for certain things.
That's good.
Hence, your friend said, so you understand? So because she's at a level where now she understands herself better, and she understands what trauma, what abuse is, and she has accepted that she'll never be a victim of that because she's willing to work on herself.
Okay.
You understand? So I feel like just life that we're living, it's all about
it requires you to constantly work on yourself.
Constantly work on yourself, like on all facets, emotionally.
Because abusers are such opportunists. They're looking for a way in, a loophole. This is why I say, as an individual, understand about the loopholes. Because I think we all have loopholes at some point. Even if you grow up with an abusive dad, that, as much as you say, I'll never do this as a man, it is a loophole for you because it might be it might be a thing for you, but it's normalcy, you know. So I think it is really important to look for your loopholes, because that's where the abusers come in, and just work on, you know, English, and work on closing up those loopholes, you know.
Yeah, because like at the end of the day, abusers smart people, you know, especially when a person has been abusing people for a long time, so they understand all your weaknesses, you know, and they'll always use your weaknesses against you. So if they understand, okay, you are very dependent, you don't have money, they'll use that, you know, against you, because they know that you'll never leave them. So those are the type of things that we need to understand and always improve. Like as people, you know, when you know that you lack the finances, fine. What measures can you take in order to improve finances?
Improve. Work on yourself. Improve.
In all facets. That's true. Because when you work on yourself, you understand yourself better. You know what to settle for. Okay, you know what not to settle for.
That's true.
You understand? So it has to do with a lot of confidence, you know.
Wow, thank you so much. This has been so informative. Thank you so much for taking time out and being with us on Mama Bozo. We know that you are a busy man in pursuit of big dreams. God bless you. May He enlarge your territory. Guys, give it up. Yes, so but at least, yes, guys, we should have him on again on the show. And we talk about something else. Like, we're going to have a long... I mean, this is the first time, but it's definitely not the last. Guys, give it up for Uliolo Bachisa, our psychologist. Yay! You can find him on the socials as Uliolo Bachisa. You can find him on 072 Take care. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. That is it from our side. What an amazing session. If you liked what you saw here today, please leave a comment on the comment section. Also, if you want to see more of this guy, our psychologist, please let me know. Please comment on the comment section. Thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe if you haven't. Please share this video. I love you and God bless.